fire really stayed with you? Now, I know it would stay on you, would lift a little bit, but it would just linger above you and come back down. How long that period was that you would consistently be in and out of it?
3.5 months.
3.5 months. Now, I've known of nobody ever. So in that sense, she was a guinea pig, and God used Lisa as a forerunner to announce. It was sometimes very hard of hearing or seeing what God's doing. To announce that He's going to visit the church with fire.
You think about fire being poured on you. You would not stand still and say, oh, this is warm. You would have a reaction.
When He sends fire to His people, it is to cleanse, to purify, to rejuvenate, to refresh, to transform, to overhaul.
And the Lord told me, He said, get in the car and go to the mall. And I thought, I have been up all night screaming. I can barely speak. I didn't even call my husband that night because I knew he couldn't understand me because I was gone. I mean, I was just gone. And so went to the mall, and the Lord said to me, go upstairs, tell them the store. I didn't even know the store existed. He told me the lady to ask for when I got there. Her name was Carol. And he said, I want you to ask for Carol, and I want you to tell her her son's awake and asking for her. And I thought, that's weird, but I'll do whatever you say because I've surrendered. I've yielded to you. I'm going to do what you say. Mm. So walk in this little design shop there in the mall. Had a lot of little knickknacks around. And the lady came up to me and I said, is Carol here? And she said, yes, ma'am. She's our manager. She's in the back. And I said, I need to speak to her. So she went and got her, and she came out, very pleasant looking lady. And I said, Carol, your son's awake and asking for you. And she just got very quiet. And while she was quiet, the phone rang. And this very excited nurse was screaming on the phone, he's awake, he's out of the coma, he's asking for you, get to the hospital now. Her son had been in a motorcycle accident and had been in a coma for 4 months. You see, the deal is this. She could have just gone to the hospital after the nurse called her, but God wanted her to know that He had done this work. And He needed me to do that for Him. Now, was there a lot of other people in Atlanta, Jonesboro area that He could have asked? I'm sure He could have, but He asked me. Now, I don't know how many of them would have done it. I started to go downstairs after a lot of tears and hugs. By the way, the young man was in the service later that week. No damage after being in a coma for 4 months.
My God.
And they said that there was no hope for him. And in the Thursday night service, he gave his heart to the Lord. And his mom was excited, to say the least. I walked downstairs, and the Lord pointed out this beautiful couple that was sitting there. And they were sitting there on a bench in just, the open area of the mall. And the Lord said to me, go up to them and tell them, I own all the wombs in the world. And I was like, what? He said, I own all the wombs in the world. They belong to me. And the child that they want is theirs. And I was like, Lord, this makes no sense. And He said, do what I asked. So I did. And I walked over to the man and I said, I know this is going to sound crazy, but this is what the Lord said. Told him exactly what the Lord said. And they just looked at each other and they burst into tears. While I was standing there was a phone call. They had been trying to adopt a baby, and the birth mother had changed her mind. Well, guess what? God changed her mind again. Because while I was standing there, she had signed all the papers for this couple to have their little girl, who they brought to the service on Thursday night. She was absolutely gorgeous. But you see, God didn't want them to think it just happened that way. He wanted them to know that there is a God who looks down and sees their heart cry.
Yeah.
And He sees your heart cry too. And what I'm telling you is, the fire of God is something that's not just already happened. It's something that's coming. I guess I was kind of made an example out of. This is true. But I called my husband, and I had laryngitis at this point from screaming so much. And I did my very best to explain to him what was happening. Well, my husband had had touches of fire, even in the services. It certainly wasn't what I was experiencing. And he said to me, I believe it. I mean, look at the brand new church, when they were filled with the Spirit of God,
Yes.
it said that cloven tongues of fire sat on them. And then look what happened to Peter, the denier of God, right after that.
Right.
He became a really great preacher. And the disciples who were weak, and they all ran away and hid and were fearful of Rome and fearful of, the religious leaders of that day, stood up boldly and lived their lives in an amazing way for the Lord after that. Well, it's what it did for me. It isn't completed in me, I know that. But for 3.5 months, I walked in the fire.